Welcome everybody and welcome to this webinar of today about the role of standards in the climate change adaptation. My name is Els and I will be moderating the webinar in the background. As usual, you will all be muted during the presentation, so you are not able to ask your question out loud, but I do invite you to use the Q&A panel to submit your questions. Should your question remain unreplied today, please don't worry because we intend to make a Q&A report available afterwards. You are many to join us today, so we might not be able to reply all questions after the presentations. Should you be on X, the previous Twitter, please feel free to tweet about the topic with the hashtag Training for Standards. You can find Sen and Senlec via the handle @standards4EU. Now, without further ado, I would like to jump into the next slide by introducing the speakers of today. We have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Andreas Walter, who is the chairperson of the Sen and Senelec coordination group of the adaptation to climate change. My colleague Carolina Muller, who is focusing on the work in relation to climate change at Sen and Senelec, is also here to present you our work. And then unfortunately, the speaker previously intended to join us, Mr. Jörg Mego, is not able to join us. He's ill today, but we are lucky his colleague Saskia Mares is here to talk us about climate stuff replacing him. So I thank you very much everybody for being here. Just a little slide overviewing a few of the abbreviations that you will find on the upcoming slides. So you might know already that DIN and DKE are both Sen and Senelec members. VDI is the Association of the German Engineers. Then we have DWD, the German Meteorological Service. ACC stands for Adaptation to Climate Change, and a CWA is a Sen Workshop Agreement. So we will share, by the way, the recording of the whole presentation and this presentation later today, so you will be able to look back at these abbreviations. So I would like to hand over the floor now to Saskia, who is waiting for you at her office there to talk about the motivation of this webinar. So please, Saskia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Els. A warmly welcome also from my side. Saskia Mares is my name. I work as a project manager at the German Institute for Standardization, and I'm a climate officer there. Unfortunately, as Els already mentioned, my colleague Jörg is today ill, so I will be replacing him. I don't have all the information that he has, but I will try my best, and if questions are not answered today, we will get to it after the webinar. So our motivation at first, our motivation is the emerging climate change. And since it's one of the biggest challenges for nature and society, and especially in the last couple of years, we witnessed in Germany major events and environmental disasters, like, for example, major storms, heavy rain, and very dry periods. And this made us think, as an organization that sets technical rules like us, what can we do to support climate change adaptation? What is needed from us and what does not yet exist that we need to get to working on. And we talked with different stakeholders, and topics like climate risk analysis and climate resilience infrastructures always came up, or often came up. Can you please click on the slide? Thank you. And then we thought, okay, but for which climate scenario should we be prepared for? To what scenario do we need to adapt? And as you all know, standardization today is based on the state of the art and not future data. So this is especially also a challenge for us. And to discuss this and other topics, we organized last summer a workshop with our stakeholders. And today we would like to talk about this workshop and also about scenarios and which climate scenario do we need to prepare for precautionary reasons. So we will show you the results of the workshop and everything that happened at our organization since then. And now I would like to hand over to Els again.
Yes, thank you, Saskia, for this introduction. I would like to ask Mr. Andreas to take over the screen sharing because he will guide the attendees to the possibilities and limitations using climate projection data in standardization. Please, Andreas, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, hello from my side as well. I want to welcome you to this webinar. And I want to share some thoughts about the possibilities and limitation of using climate projections, which tell us a lot about the future, the climatic future, and these data in standardization. I'm a climatologist working at the German National Meteorological Service, and I statistically analyze climate data. And in my role as chair of the Adaptation to Climate Change Coordination Group of SEN, this expertise is often sought after. So I hope you get a little bit of inspiration out of my presentation. First of all, I want to show you a slide about the changes of key variables in the climate system. It's not only temperature that's changing, but there is another huge amount of variables in the climate system which are changing over time. On the left side, you see condensed what happened in the last 2,000 years. And on the right side, you see what happened during the instrumental period, which roughly can be defined that started about 1860. So what you can see here is on top the increase in CO2 in the atmosphere, for example, about 45% against pre-industrial. You can see the warming oceans since 1971, which a huge amount of energy stored in the oceans. You can see the sea level rise, which is about 22 centimeters on the global average. And then in black, you see the global temperature with roughly an increase of 1.1 degrees against pre-industrial. You can see the decrease of the Arctic sea ice in light blue there, which is about 43% since 1980, which is really, really alarming. And you can see at the bottom of the screen the rise in humidity over land since the 70s of the last century, which means that there's a lot of moisture, additionally moisture in the atmosphere, which can be rained out. And if you see this in comparison to the plots, what happened during the last 2,000 years, you see how dramatically this increase or decrease in sea ice respectively is during that time period. So there's not only temperature changing, but a whole lot of other variables in the climate system are changing as well. Additionally, it is the fact that some conditions, some regions in the globe may even change faster than global averages. So I just have this plot here as an example for Germany. What you see here is global temperature anomalies compared to mean value. The mean value is the mean of global temperatures for the time period 1961 to 1990, 30 years. And you can see in red deviations from that mean, which tend to be warmer. And in blue, you see yearly deviations from that mean, which are colder. What you can depict also from this plot is the linear trend. So the linear trend in yellow here is the global trend, just what I showed you in the previous slide, which an increase of 1.1 degrees Celsius. And to show you the fact that some regions even change faster than these global averages, I also show you here the linear trend for Germany. And this linear trend for Germany is 1.7 degrees Celsius. This means a lot faster in Germany, as an example, for other regions of the globe. For example, the temperature in high latitudes is even changing 10 times faster than the global averages. And there are other regions, for example, the Mediterranean, where changes occur even faster than on global average. So with this change in global average, we see an increasing variability, which means we see more extreme values. To give you an impression of what is meant by this, I have here a probability distribution for the current climate. And you see to both sides of this distribution in red, there are the warm extremes, and in blue are cold extremes, whereas the mean value of this distribution is this dotted line. So what happens now when average conditions are changing, for example, temperature, is that the mean value shifts slightly to the right, what you can see here. But we not only notice a shift of the mean value, but we also see in our measurements an increasing variability. This increasing variability means that the distribution is getting broader than it has been in times ago. So, and with this comes that we only see slightly less cold events, as you see to the left of this plot here in the blue section. But for a future climate, we see a lot more of hot events, which means heat, and even a lot more of record heat events, which you can see to the purple piece here on your right-hand side. So we have a slow onset of a change of climatic variabilities all over the globe, even in some region faster than global averages. And with this change in mean conditions, we see an increasing variability in the distribution of these climatic variables, which mean we see more extreme values, which are also happening right now, and in the future might be these events even get enforced. So EU regulation is talking a lot about the Green Deal of the EU, which means sustainability is becoming a criterion of risk management in the financial sector in this case, and the taxonomy, which means an activity is considered taxonomy compliant activity if it makes a significant contribution to the achievement of at least one environmental objectives. And as an example for these environmental objectives, I want to mention here mitigation of climate change and adaptation to climate change, and does not significantly impair any of the other objectives of the taxonomy. I want to focus here on the adaptation of climate change, which means we adapt to the unavoidable consequences of climate change, even if there's some part of climate change which can be still mitigated, but there will be other parts that we have to adapt to because they can not be prevented anymore due to slow onset and so on. So out of these thoughts, here comes a regulation from the European Union. It's a regulation from 2021, number 2139. And I just want to show you what's inside this regulation. It's a little bit small, but I will read it to you. Amending establishing additional technical screening criteria for determining the conditions under which certain economic activities qualify as contributing substantially to climate change mitigation or climate change adaptation, and for determining whether those activities cause no significant harm to any of the other environmental objectives. So here, climate change adaptation is explicitly mentioned. And if we read this regulation a bit further down and carefully, there's a requirement that organizations should be performing a robust climate risk and vulnerability assessment following these steps that you can read here in this regulation. For example, climate risk and vulnerability assessment is proportionate to scale of the activity and its expected lifespan, such that for activities with an expected lifespan of less than 10 years, the assessment is performed at least by using climate projections at the smallest appropriate scale. And further down, a range of future scenarios consistent with the expected lifetime of the activity, including at least 10 to 30 years climate projection scenarios for major investments. So here is the point of the EU according to climate change adaptation and mitigation. And as an example and as an outcome of the workshop we had last year at Dean that Saskia just mentioned in her introduction, I want to show you here what results we obtained when we performed a climate risk and vulnerability assessment in Germany. So the purpose of a climate risk and vulnerability assessment is to create awareness. This means that we want to raise the awareness by those who might be affected by climate change. And another purpose is the prioritization of action requirements, which is a basis for decision-making. The results of such a climate risk and vulnerability assessment, which, by the way, can be performed according to ISO 49001, where this is the standard procedure for climate risk and vulnerability assessment. The results of such an assessment are more or less communication products, which mean graphics or key messages, and decision templates, which means that you can prioritize which measures should be taken first and which measures can be laid back a little bit. So, for example, the result in which field of action, which climate impact, and in which regions are particularly of a high climate risk, which means these are the impacts of climate change to my organization that I'm highly risk to. Where do my organization has low adaptation capacities? This means in these areas, I have to strengthen my adaptation capacities to prepare for the unavoidable effects of climate change. And as a third part, where is an urgent need for action, which means which risk do I have to address first? As an example, here we performed for several fields of action, for example, biodiversity, soil, agriculture, forestry, fishing, coastal marine protection, energy industry, traffic infrastructure, industry and trade. We performed such climate risk and vulnerability assessment and regarding several scenarios of future climate projections, which is the optimistic scenario and a pessimistic scenario, which means that the emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere go more or less like a business as usual. And we looked at different time scales. On the left side, you see the climate risk for mid-century, which is roughly 2030 to 2060. And on the right-hand side, you can see both scenarios for the end of the century, which is 2070 to 2100. And you see here that we came, for example, for high risks for agriculture. If we take the pessimistic approach, so agriculture has a high risk and has to be adapted accordingly to that high risk for both timescales, as well as forestry, fishing, coastal and marine protection, water management, and human health. So to conclude, I want to show you one last slide. Climate projections are not easy to handle because actually the data format is binary due to the huge amount of storage which is needed for such climate projections. So there you cannot use Excel to work with these climate data. They come as an ensemble, which means there is no single truth, but you can give them a broader span of possible results that you can deal with. And climate data are inherent uncertain because no climate model is perfect, and there are a lot of parameterizations in climate models which don't have to be that correct. And it's a large amount of data you have to deal with. It's in the range of terabytes. Furthermore, these data must be processed appropriately for your location or region. So, but let's end the bad news, and here's the good news about the climate projections and how you might use them for your climate risk and vulnerability assessment in your organization. Climate projections are the only reliable source of information about future climatic conditions. So there's no way around using these data if you want to adapt to an increasing climate risk in the future for your organization. And these climate projections support adaptation measures and standardization work. And here's the best news of my presentation. Climate projections can be obtained in a tailored way which fits your need for any purpose from climate services. So thank you for your attention, and I give back to Els, I think.
Yes, thank you very much, Andreas, for this interesting overview and your nice close down slide here. I think I can hand over the floor right away back to Saskia, who is going to give the overview. Saskia, are you still there? She will present us the workshop previously mentioned.
I'm still there. I'm just sharing my screen. Wait for
Okay.
I will talk now, as I mentioned before, about the workshop that we did last year and every activity, or a summary of the activities that happened at DIN or in Germany since then. And well, last year we organized the 3 biggest standardization organizations in Germany organized a workshop, and the focus was, or the question that we discussed was, which climate scenario do we need to be prepared for precautionary reasons? And around 60 people came to Berlin to discuss this with us. We had people from technical committees, businesses, and also politics there. And we organized several breakout sessions focusing on construction, occupational safety, product safety, transport, which refers to ship and rail, and water. And the main insights of this workshop were that is a lot of experience, there's a lot of experience, but there's still a big gap toward the broad application of the German adaptation plan, which is also called German Adaptation Strategy. That's a strategy that was developed in 2008 and is continuously updated. And yeah, what was the main, what did we get out of this for us? What can standardization organizations contribute? And in the discussion, we figured out that, okay, an overview of the standards that already exist is necessary and how they are connected to each other. And that also the technical committees that develop standards need support in considering adaptation to climate change. And they also asked for methodologies, for example, like a risk analysis that includes a cost-benefit analysis, and also how to deal with climate projection data. Additionally, it was mentioned, especially by small and medium-sized enterprises that we have quite a lot in Germany, that they need special support regarding adaptation to climate change. And what they also ask for is that they need a clear communication from decision makers, especially on political level, like, for example, political guidance regarding the selection of a reference scenario for the future. Out of this workshop, we then thought, okay, DIN, DKI, and VDI thought, okay, we need to come up with a plan. The short-term goals that we want to achieve with this are that the organization gets some quick help in doing, or for the development also of standards, that they get some quick help, like, for example, checklists and recommendations for actions. And on a medium and long term, we would like to, or that a structure exists for coordinating adaptation to climate change in standardization, and that adaptation is already included in many standards. We will, in the development, also consider what is going on international level. We are probably also taking into account, for example, the draft standardization request that we received from the European Commission on Climate Adaptation, or that the European Standardization Organization received, where 350 infrastructures are to be revised. And we will also take into consideration the adaptation or the revision of the German adaptation strategy that I already mentioned. This will be published or revised in the end of this year, and that will probably contain also measurable targets for adaptation to climate change. So what, in the frame of this adaptation action, we plan to prioritize sectors where standards can support climate change adaptation. We plan to set up a working group to discuss how to deal with climate data, which is needed for a climate risk analysis. And we also want to discuss risk management with concrete requirements for climate adaptation measures. And we will also look into the already mentioned taxonomy conformity. And climate change adaptation consultation is also a topic that we are going to take into consideration also when developing this plan that is currently under development. And we will also coordinate with all stakeholders. Now I would like to show you one of the quick tools that we developed, or one of the tools that were developed. which is the toolbox, or we call it DEAN Toolbox Climate Change. And this is a questionnaire on climate change mitigation, adaptation, and circularity. 3 questions each, plus there's some guidance for DEAN project managers and further information for interested committees. And we used Microsoft Office Forms to offer a more attractive and more, most of all digital format also. And you see here a screenshot of how it looks, so it's not a paper version. The following 3 questions are asked in this adaptation questionnaire. The first is, are the normative specifications dependent on climate conditions like, for example, temperature and wind speed? And or could the subject of the standard be susceptible to extreme weather conditions? Could, for example, a flooding influence standard objects that are in cellars? And the second question is, can changes reduce the vulnerability identified in question 1? And the third question is, does the subject matter of your standard contribute to necessary functions of natural and societal systems? With natural systems is meant if the standard contributes to the functioning of ecosystems, and with social system is meant if the standard contributes to the functioning of, for example, infrastructure. So this is only to give you a quick overview. What are the key takeaways? Standards can support stakeholders regarding adaptation to climate change, and thus a broad implementation of adaptation measures. And standardization organizations have to review their processes, like how to identify standards that are in need of revision, how to include work together with key stakeholders, and how to coordinate adaptation in standardization. And that would be it from my side. If you have any questions, yeah, let me know. I think Jörg also joined, so he has maybe some more insight, or we will get back to you after this and give you some answers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Saskia. No questions came in while you were talking, but maybe that will still come up for the attendees. So please, as usual, you're free to use the Q&A for submitting your questions. I would like to take over the screen again because my colleague Carolina is ready to present you the existing approaches in relation to climate change adaptation in CEN and CENELEC. So please, Carolina, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Els. After the comprehensive gap analysis and the action plan introduction, I will now shortly summarize which kind of existing approaches and adaptation measures we have at CEN and CENELEC already in place. First of all, there are CEN and CENELEC guides. Yeah, now you see them. We have 2 guides to how actually advise standardizers how to include climate change adaptation methods into standards, which is the CEN and CENELEC Guide 32, Guide for Addressing Climate Change Adaptation in Standards, and also the tailored guidance for standardization technical committees, also how to include adaptation measures, but there it's specifically for infrastructure standards. The other one, which is mentioned here, is Guide 33. It's for addressing environmental issues in testing standards. So it is also related and gives advice for standardizers. And I also, just to give brief examples of approaches, of specific approaches technical committees already have in place, I chose 3 different kinds of sectors to show you how they solved to include adaptation measures into the documents. The first would be CNTC 234, which is gas infrastructure. They actually have a horizontal document, which is DEN 17649, which forces users to assess possible impacts of foreseeable scenarios. So they really go deeply into the material. Whereas the CNTC 430 on nuclear energy, nuclear technologies, and radiological protection, they reference to comprehensive guides, which are constantly updated. Those are guidelines from the International Atomic Energy Agency on climate change mitigation and adaptation methods to protect nuclear plants and the output. And the third one would be the SENELEC Technical Committee 9X on electrical and electronic applications for railways. They have a series, which is the 50125 series on environmental conditions for equipment. So they list environmental factors their equipment needs to withstand to be, let's say, climate proof. Next slide, please. And here is just a list of publications, also from various sectors, and also examples. There are many more. But for now, just to show that we have first of all, there is a homegrown standard from the construction sector and on sustainability of construction works. Then there are several EN ISO and EN IC documents, so adopted from international level on climate change, adaptation to climate change, and the classification of environmental conditions. But we also have CWAs, which is, as you remember from the beginning, a SEN workshop agreement, which are documents which might be transferred into normative deliverables later, but for now they are active and can be downloaded on city resilience, so climate adaptation for historic areas, then good practice on making climate adaptation plans for fishery and agriculture, so very sector specific, but also good to take a look at and take some examples out of that, and a guide to implement cool surfaces for buildings, the urban heat island, to mitigate the urban heat island effect. Next slide, please. So, yeah, we at SENELEC, we have a strategy 2030. It's called Strategy 2030. And in that strategy, we include already climate change mitigation as one of our 5 priorities, where there's the goal. So we at SENELEC committed to combat climate change and support mitigation and adaptation measures actively through providing meaningful solutions. Our vision, of course, is building a safer, more sustainable and comprehensive Europe through European and international standardization. And the mission is to create consensus-based standards to generate trust, fulfill market requirements, enable market access and innovations for a better, safer and more sustainable Europe. The link to our strategy is here on the top, so you can click on that later if you want to check it out. And now my last slide, which shows you or an example for specific actions which SEN and SENELEC are already committed to, is to support ISO, the International Standardization Organization, to implement the London Declaration Action Plan, which is the one to mitigate climate change through standardization. And also, standardization is a critical catalyst for sustainable development to transform our economy and enhance the green and digital transition in Europe. So we, of course, support that and also support the Sustainable Development Goals, exactly for that matter. And the third one, which Saskia already mentioned, is that we are currently closely collaborating with the Directorate General for Climate Action to further include adaptation methods into standards through a standardization request issued from DG Klima. So just a brief overview of that. We already tackled that issue, and now I'm going back to Els. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carolina. I would like to launch a little poll before we go back to the Q&A. I've noticed a few questions, but before we go to the Q&A, I would like to launch a little poll. The poll is actually just asking our attendees to give their feedback on the webinar. So we use the feedback we receive to improve our webinars in the future. So if all of you should please take a few minutes of your time to reply to questions, that would be helpful. I think actually the questions that came in are for Saskia, and they're quite similar. Actually, people would like to know if the DIN toolbox on the climate change that you mentioned is available somewhere.
Yeah, we developed this tool because there was a need of our technical experts, or technical experts asked for it. So currently it's only available for our project managers that use it together with the technical expert in meetings. So it's internally and for our members and in meetings, but we don't have it publicly available at the moment on our website. And I don't know currently the status of if we are going to put it out there. And in which format also, because currently, as I mentioned, it's a Microsoft Office Forms document, or not document, website.
Okay, thank you, Saskia. Well, if the question at one time or one moment at DIN rises, you might inform people at DIN that there is the question or the need or the wish to have it available somewhere so people can have a look. There are no more other questions in the Q&A. So maybe we can keep the webinar open for a while because we plan to have this webinar up to 2 o'clock. We still have some time for you. If you would like to raise your questions, please feel free to do so. I just would like to confirm again that the presentation and the recording of this webinar will be shared with you later today. So you can have a look and share it with colleagues if you would like to do so. On the last slide, also a little overview with our upcoming events or webinars. Should you be working in the machinery field, there is a webinar on the 23rd of February about the gap analysis of harmonized standards. It's almost fully booked. It's a very popular webinar. So should you want to follow this one, please go ahead by following that hyperlink. In March, we have a cybersecurity standardization conference. Also in March, we would like to highlight the consumers with a webinar on the smooth transition between the General Product Safety Directive and the regulation. And then we have already one webinar planned for April on the EN ISO 14083 in relation to transport operations and their emissions. So no more questions came in while I was going over the last slide. Excuse me, one question is there now. Just give me a moment. It's a question actually for Andreas. Are you still with us and are you able to shed light on this question?
Yes, I can answer that. There are data which are going back even further, but the issue is that the climate projections only start around pre-industrial. So if you look for this slide here that Ilse is showing, thankfully, you can use reconstructions of, for example, temperature and sea surface temperature or temperature of the deep ocean. But this is more or less proxy data and is not as reliable as the reconstructions for the last 2000 years and not as reliable as naturally during the instrumental period. But there are data which are going back like 800,000 years.
Okay, thank you very much, Andreas. I think that answers the question raised by Tim. And that was actually the last question in the Q&A. So if okay for all the speakers, I would like to suggest to close down the webinar here. As promised, you will receive still today the material of the presentation. So I'd like to thank all the speakers, Carolina, Saskia, and Andreas, for being there, and also Jörg, who joined us, I think, in the background, probably with a sore throat or so. But thank you very much for joining, and we'll keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Much. Bye-bye.